bother curling my hair. Ugh. Hi friends, it's Rainy, and today I want to talk to you about my TBR for the Summer Fling Readathon. This is hosted by my friend Sarah over at Steeped in Books, as well as a host of other people. So I will leave her channel down below, her announcement video, so you can look through and subscribe to all the hosts of this readathon. A couple of them that I personally know are Chloe from Always Booked, Elizabeth from Lizzie Faye Loves Books, and our very own BookTube darling, Steve Donahue. So this readathon focuses on romance reading. And you might be saying, Brainy, you aren't a romance reader. You always talk about how you do not like romance. You would be correct. But I want to broaden my horizons, and Sarah is a good friend of mine, and she loves romance reading. So I want to, give solidarity to my friend Sarah. Let me put up the cute little graphic that Sarah made with all the prompts in it right here. I'll put it here. And I just think that that's so fun and beachy and just everything you want in a summer readathon. I think I got it all. I'll just leave Sarah's link down below so you can check out all that so that I'm not rambling on and on, because I'm already rambling on and on. So let's just get to what I'm going to be reading. Now, the first book I have is not for one of the prompts. It is Window on the Bay by Debbie Maycomer. And I have heard a lot about Debbie Maycomer on the various romance booktube channels that I watch, but I've never read anything by her. And it's funny because the only reason I even own this book is because my neighbor and I were both out on our back decks reading one night, and we live in condos, so we're very close to each other when we're outside. And she finished her book, and she leaned over the railing, and she was like, hey, would you be interested in this? Do you want it? And knowing that the summer fling was coming up, I was like, oh, heck yes. Now, for the first actual prompt, that prompt is hot and spicy. And Sarah said that, you can be very creative with this, because some people like the super sexy times kind of books that I'm not into. So she said, you can pick a book with a hot climate, food related, what have you. So I was just doing a Google search, as you do, and I saw Chocolat by Joanne Harris. And now this copy that I got from my library is not terribly exciting, the cover, but the only reason I even thought about this book for this prompt is because of the movie with Johnny Depp years ago. And I just remember just swooning during that whole movie. And basically because, Johnny Depp just is. Also in the movie, the chocolate that was involved in some way was like Mexican hot chocolate that had a spiciness factor to it. So I thought, that's enough for me. If it's in any way, shape, or form like the book is, it fits the bill in a lot of ways for hot and spicy. So we're just going to go with it. The next prompt is Down Home Country, which Sarah said could be anything from a cowboy romance to just something set in a country-esque environment. Decided to go with Truth or Beard by Penny Reed, the first in the Winston Brothers series. And this one probably could go with hot and spicy for me too, because Sarah said there were some sexy times. But I'm actually going to be buddy reading this with my friend Angie over at Literary Labors. And we are going to be doing this as part of a new series we're trying out called Bitter Single Ladies Read Romance. And obviously, Angie and I are both single. We're both in our middle years in age. And we, from time to time, talk about the bitterness of our single situation. So we thought it would be fun to pick a book on maybe a monthly basis, maybe a bi-monthly basis, where we buddy read it together and then record our thoughts together and maybe have some kind of a discussion video about it. So yeah, let us know if you have any ideas for how we could do this video or how we could do this challenge, or if that even sounds like something you'd be interested in seeing. We would be delighted to know, because we just kind of came up with this, so we're not like fully secure in what we're doing yet, but it's going to be at the end of the month, we are hoping. So but I'm really excited for this series. It centers around twin men who are also bikers, and I guess are a little bit redneck. So Sarah told me that that would work perfectly for Down Home Country. So I'm very excited to finally have a reason to read this book. So the next book I'm going to be reading, I am going to double up on a couple of the prompts. And so for the prompts of Big City Life and Friends to Lovers, I am going to be reading Sunset in Central Park. And this is by Sarah Morgan. It is the second in the From Manhattan with Love series. I read the first in the series, which I cannot remember what it's called, so I'll try to remember to put it up here. But I read that a couple of months ago. I forget why, actually. Oh, for the Golden Girls Readathon, I read it, yes, because it was set in New York City, because I was Team Dorothy. So, but I read the first in that series. I really thought it was delightful, and I really enjoyed one of the characters in that, Frankie, who is kind of like me, a bitter single lady. Sarah told me that since I liked Frankie so much, I would really enjoy the second book in this series, and because it centers around Frankie and a friend of hers that she just doesn't ever think would be interested in her, and of course he is. And romance ensues, of course. So I'm really excited to move on in this series and see what Frankie gets up to. And these I think are a little bit hot and spicy as well, as at least for me. But it might be a behind closed doors kind of a sexy time, which I think was the way it was in the first one. I honestly can't remember because I often skip the sexy times. I'm sorry to disappoint romance readers. Now for my next book selection, I will be doubling up again for the prompts and reading this same book for the author of color and the diversity read. And for that, I'm going to be reading Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors by Sonali Dev, who is an Indian writer who writes about Indian characters. I read Recipe for Persuasion by the same author for Jane Austen July, and I really enjoyed it. She does, at least in this series, she's doing retellings of Jane Austen novels, and there's a little bit of a tie-in in Recipe for Persuasion with the first book, Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors, which I hadn't read yet. So I thought, it wasn't like so much that I was spoiled, obviously, but I want to go back and read that one because I read Recipe for Persuasion with my friend Krista from Books and Jams, and she told me that she thought that Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors was a little bit more of a direct retelling than Recipe for Persuasion was. So I'd like to see what I think the differences are. Now, for the prompt of Dark and Dangerous, I was looking around for some love-inspired suspense from the Harlequin line, and I found a few that were interesting, but I could not find them at my library. I mean, come on, guys. So I was having a really hard time with this prompt because all of them that I thought I might be interested in, I couldn't find anywhere. I couldn't find them on Scribd. I couldn't find them at my library or any of the other libraries that I subscribed to on Overdrive. It was giving me a hard time. So I went to Instagram and I asked for recommendations on where to start with Georgette Hare. Hare? I don't know how to pronounce her last name. But because she was a prominent mystery and romance writer in the 1920s, and I just, I've heard some things about her and thought that I would like to try her. So my friend Elaine from Elaine Hallen suggested either the Venetian or the Corinthian. And I decided to go with the Corinthian because while I don't know if her her novels are mystery and romance together, or if they're just two separate genres that she writes in. This one sounded like it could have a little bit of suspense involved in it. So this one focuses on a woman fugitive and a guy who kind of meets up with her and takes her under his protection, and they get into a lot of things. So that sounded suspenseful to me, and I am sure there's going to be a love story in there somewhere. Now, the next prompt is right up my alley, and it is the sweet and clean prompt. Now, yes, we know that I am not a big fan of the explicit sexy times in books. So I really wanted something that was not going to make me blush too much. So this book has actually been on my radar for a while because of Sarah. And we are going to actually be buddy reading it together. She has read this book multiple times, but it's one of her favorites, so I'm excited to get to it. And it is Just One of the Guys by Kristen Higgins. And this just, I mean, look at that. Look at that little doggy. He just looks so cute. And I honestly don't remember what Sarah said about this book, but I trust her judgment, and I'm really excited to read it with her. And she's really excited that I'm going to read it, and she tells me it's sweet. I think she did say there's a little bit of like behind closed doors sexy times in this, but I'm totally fine with that. As long as it's like a fade to black kind of a scenario, I'm fine. So for two more prompts, I'm going to take somewhat of a liberty with the prompt. And so for the prompts of road trip romance and an old school historical, I'm going to go with Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. Now, you might be saying, Rainey, that's not what these prompts meant. But I decided that it totally fits because, number one, how much more old school romance can you get than Miss Jane Austen? I mean, really, come on. And also, in Northanger Abbey, the protagonist, the heroine, does not spend very much time at her actual home. She travels to a lot of different places, to a lot of different homes, and sees a lot of new sights. It does not spend any time and too much time in any one place the entire novel. So to me, and they didn't have airplanes and things like that back then, so they were on the road. So therefore, it's a road trip. Try to dispute that fact. So, and I needed to keep the Jane Austen love going. So that's that. And I'm also going to be reading from this complete illustrated edition because I'm going to be doing another little mini readathon, like a week readathon at the beginning of the month called the Moominathon. That's hosted by my friend Phoenix over at Somebody Reads. And I'll talk about that some other time, but one of the prompts is to read an illustrated book. And so I don't have any illustrated books of Jane Austen, and I couldn't find the graphic novel edition of Northanger Abbey at my library, of course. So we're going to try an illustrated edition. We'll see how that goes. Now, the next prompt is one that I am very interested in, and I was having kind of a hard time with it because I wanted to find a romance read where the female protagonist had a facial deformity. I know that that's very specific, but it's something that I personally would like to read about, and like to see the heroine, get her man in the end. And even though she might feel that she is unattractive because of something that is, different about her face. So I had a really hard time with that because there are a lot of romances where the man has a facial deformity, but there are hardly any, at least that I could find, that had a woman with a scar or a birth defect or something like that. So I went to Instagram again, and my friend Angie from Literary Labors suggested Despised and Desired by Bree Wolfe. So I'm going to try this one. And apparently in this one, the heroine has an accident and gets a scar on her face. So I feel like, that's a decent depiction of a facial deformity, obviously. So, and I was able to find this on Kindle Unlimited, which I have a free trial of until the end of August. So that'll work out splendidly. Now, the last prompt is the one that I had the worst time with. I don't know why, but it is just a category romance. I don't know why I'm having a hard time with this. But so this one is still kind of up in the air because category romance are, a lot of them are like Harlequin novels, and there is a love inspired line and a love inspired suspense, and also I think a heartworm series. I don't know, something like that. But all are either clean or pretty tame in the actual sexual themes. So I did choose a love inspired suspense for this, and I just picked it yesterday, so we'll see how it goes. I decided to go with The Texas Ranger Showdown by Margaret Daly. And so this could also go for the dark and dangerous prompt as well. But I just found it on Scribd yesterday, so I threw it in for category romance at the end. And this one, I guess, is about a therapist who starts finding all of her patients dead. And there's apparently a serial killer out there, or somebody that's out to get her, and a Texas Ranger has to come and save the day. So that sounds interesting. So yeah, that's what I'm picking for that prompt for now. I am tempted though to pick an Amish romance because, like I said, back in the day, I read a lot of Amish romances. And I don't have any on my list this month, but because these are so quick, I am going to try to read more than just what I have on this list. And I'm going to try to vlog. I've kind of had a bit of a vlogging slump this week, so I'm hoping to get back into it. But yeah, I'm going to try to maybe even daily vlog. I don't know. Well, let's not hold me to that. But but I'm going to definitely vlog, so you'll see if I pick anything extra. But yeah, that is my TBR for the Summer Fling Readathon. I will post all the things that you need to know down in the description, and I let me know if you are joining in, or if you are a romance reader and you have some different suggestions for some of these prompts, or any theories on any of these books, if you've read them, if you think that I'm actually going to like them, or and anything that you have to suggest about Angie and my bitter single ladies read romance series that we'll be doing. We would enjoy some input. So all right, friends, I'm gonna go because I feel like this is gonna be long, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.